Om Nam Srashtham Vanumapi Sharchi Putram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupurim Mathurim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Givaram Mahoradhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tang Natosmi Nindantam Pulakotkarena Vikasatnipa Prasuna Chavin Prodvikritya Bhujadvayam Hari Hari Tyuchaivadantam Muhu Nrityantam Drutamasru Nirjarachayai Sinchantamurvitalam Gayantam Nijaparshadaih Parivritam Tam Goram Eva Stumaham Alidhi Paripalita Pravalita Sanandamalokita Pratyasham Sumana Falodaya Vidho Samodamamudita Brindaranya Bhuvi Prakasha Madhura Sarvatishayi Sriya Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ulalasa Kalpatrumam Jai Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath E Choi Gosai Rakuri Charana Bandhan Jaha Hoite Vighnana Shabishta Puram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are once again in the 10th Anuched of the Priti Sandarbha, and this is the second part now. So, well, we're going to call this Mukti is beyond the gunas, whence one never returns, or Mukti is a permanent condition. So we finished in the last section, we finished with a quote from the Chandogya Upanishad. And so this is actually continuing on from there. That the statement was that this was introduced, that in the Utkranta Mukti Avastayam api Vishesha Spurtihi Shrutau Eva Sammatta. So that in the state of liberation after death, there is still an experience of variety in transcendence in the liberated state. So now we continue on from there, and again he's quoting from the same section of the Chandogya Upanishad. Esha cha panchavidhapi gunatita iva. So always the language is designed in such a way that the Advaitavadis will, that there will be pressure on the Advaitavadis, or he's stating or deliberately contrasting with the Advaitavadis. Because he says that even though there are 5 kinds, this mukti in all its 5 varieties is beyond the gunas. Well, I should put, though it has even though it has 5 varieties, is beyond the gunas of material nature. So nirgunayam bhuma vidyayam eva sa ekadha bhavati tridha bhavati ityadina. So that is being confirmed by this statement from the Chandogya Upanishad, where it's talking about the bhuma vidya. So this bhuma vidya is in the 7th khanda of the Chandogya Upanishad in the 25th and 26th chapters. And the question was that, so that's why Jiva here emphasizes, he says that nirgunayam bhuma vidyayam, that the bhuma vidya, this is a very important chapter actually, the Chandogya Upanishad, very important section, because it's talking about transcendence. So Jiva Goswami here specifies that nirguna, that the bhuma vidya, the knowledge of the great knowledge, the knowledge of the great, of the supreme. And this word bhuma is not used that often, and subsequently it's not used so much in the later texts, but in the idea there that the great, the bhuma, that swalpe sukham nasti, bhumaiva sukham, that only the great, that which is the greatest, can bring happiness. The trivial, the insignificant, the partial, and does not bring one full happiness. So in that nirgunayam bhuma vidyayam eva sa ekada bhavati tridha bhavati ityadina tad vidhasya muktasya swechaya nana vidharupa prakatya sravanat. So the statement is that the sa ekadha bhavati tridha bhavati. Well, it's a very interesting passage, and Shankaracharya, when he talks about this, because what precedes, what is the bhuma? The bhuma is the atma. So as I was explaining in a previous class, that the atma and Brahman, the Upanishads don't use the word Brahman all that much. They're much more preferential to the word Atma. And so here in this portion of the Chandogya Upanishad, the word Atma is being used. And so for the Brahmavadis, for Shankaracharya, there's one Atma. And although the jiva partakes of that selfhood, there's one self that pervades the entire universe. And so that one self is the great. And then so here when he talks about this, so when he talks about realization, because that's the statement that comes here, right, in the Chandogya Upanishad. So here's the situation for the person who's liberated. So, as we've been at pains to say, as Jiva Goswami has been pointing out over and over again, you might talk about a single Atma, but de facto there's a dual Atma. There's the universal Atma, and then there's the individual Atma. So when we talk about the liberated soul, we're talking about that individual Atma who has come to realize the universal Atma. Tadesha shloko na pashyo mrityum pashyati narogam nota dukkata sarvam pashyati sarvam apnoti sarvasha iti. Right? So when when the seer no longer sees death, right? And when he no longer experiences disease or suffering, then he attains everything from all directions. Then sa ekadha bhavati, so that's the part that was quoted here. Sa ekadha bhavati, tridha bhavati, panchadha, saptadha, navadha, chaiva, punaschaikadashaha, smritaha, shatam cha, dashachaikascha, sahasrani cha, vingshatira, vingshati. So all the way up to there, he says that how many different kinds of forms. So for Shankaracharya, when it talks about when he was one, ekadha. So the suffix dha, it means ways. It's an adverbial suffix that refers to ways. Ekadha, that in one way, or in tridha, in three ways, or in three divisions, and so on. So the one soul, the one Atma can become one, or can become three, or can become 5, or 7, or 1,000, and so on. It goes. So there, Jiva Goswami takes from that muktasya, a person who is a liberated soul of the utkranta variety, that he, out of his own desire, swechhaya, nana vidha rupa prakatya sravanat, can take on many different forms. So that is proof, or at least it's a shruti praman, that there is variety in the liberated state. And he goes on and quotes a verse that he's quoted on several times before. So it's Nayatra Maya Ityado Vaikuntasya Mayatitatva Sravanat. So this verse was discussed in great detail in the Bhagavad-Sandarbha. By coincidence, it's also in the 10th Anucheda of that Sandarbha. And so there it was. So that's the subject of Vaikuntha, is discussed in the Bhagavad-Sandarbha, and the transcendence of Vaikuntha, the existence of Vaikuntha. These things have all been discussed before. So here Jiva Goswami simply refers to the verse by saying Natatra Maya, only taking that one little portion, that there is no Maya in Vaikuntha, no illusion in Vaikuntha. It is beyond Maya. So now so from here we're going to see that we'll see these things, and as I believe I mentioned before, we know Satyanarayana Dasa Ji, for those who don't know, in his personal biography, he had an interesting way of leaving the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because there was a debate on the nature of the jiva and the fall of the jiva. So in some places, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he stated that the jiva falls from Vaikuntha. And I can remember back when I was in ISKCON, somewhere around 1972 or 71, way back in the day, Prabhupada came to New Vrindavan, and in those days they used to have Vishnu Jan Swami had started something that they used to call the traveling road show, and so they put on the play that they had written, and the play started out, and this was we used to do in those days in ISKCON, we used to do a lot of dramas, and sometimes we do street, the kind of what they called it. Well, anyways, we used to do on the street. We used to do form little dramas, and try to pass the teachings into the world at large in that way. So the theme of the traveling roadshow was that there was once upon a time there was a jiva in Vaikuntha who was didn't want to be a little fish in a big pond, but wanted to be a big fish in a little pond. And so that was the idea of ego, that the jiva in the spiritual world becomes envious of God and doesn't want to, and wants to put himself. He would rather be in a less significant place, in a less auspicious surroundings, as long as he could be the big cheese. And so that from there, the drama went that the jiva was kicked out of Vaikuntha and came into the material world. So this was the current belief in ISKCON at the time, and it was based on Prabhupada's own words. Prabhupada stopped the roadshow at that particular time, but I don't know if it was because of Apasiddhanta. I think it was more because he felt that it was an activity which was not preferable to the regular kinds of activities in which he was engaging his disciples in terms of dress and in terms of behavior and in terms of also activity of book distribution and things like that. But the fact was that the Siddhanta, the idea that a jiva could fall from Vaikuntha, this was something that Babaji, who at that time was studying with Haridas Shastri and was studying the Sandarbhas, and discovered was not acceptable to Jiva Goswami's Siddhanta. And he said as much publicly, and he gathered all the data and wrote a book about it. But there were people in ISKCON who felt that he was going against the Siddhanta that had been established by Bhaktivedanta Swami, and that he was not only that, but that he was insulting Bhaktivedanta Swami, and that he was placing himself above Bhaktivedanta Swami by claiming to know better. So this is often the case that happens to people, such as Satyanarayana Dasa Babaji, who are dedicated to seeking out the truth. They find themselves in a position of disagreement with highly respected individuals, and that leads to a lot of trouble. But of course, we are Satyam Eva Jayate, the Upanishad. This is also the motto of the Indian Republic, that truth will ever be victorious, not falsehood. So at least in terms of our internal discussion here of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, what is our Siddhanta, what is the Siddhanta of the Bhagavatam, and indeed what is the Siddhanta of the entire Vedic or Vedantic corpus. So that's what Jiva Goswami does. He started here by referring to the Upanishad itself, by referring to the Upanishads. Of course, he might have found, or he probably could have found other texts that supported his idea. And indeed he does, from the Upanishad and from the Vedanta Sutra. So the very, very last sutra of the Vedanta Sutra is Anavrittihi Shabdat. So this is how Jiva Goswami starts here. He says, Atra Vrittihi Rahityam Changi Kritam. That avritti means repetition. So without repetition, avritti rahityam angikritam. So it's been accepted that there is no repetition. So here what it means, repetition means returning to the material world, returning to this world of Maya. So there's no Maya in Vaikuntha. So what does that mean, no Maya? No Maya in Vaikuntha means that there is only Krishna Bhakti. So if there's only Krishna Bhakti, there's no scope. There's no Maya does not enter there. Illusion does not enter there. Forgetfulness of Krishna does not enter there. Forgetfulness of Narayan does not enter there. And that is the nature of the transcendent world, which lies beyond the material realm of God's creation. So this is the last sutra, 4423 of the Vedanta Sutra, where it says anavrittihi shabdat. So that's the important word here. Avrittihi, anavrittihi. Anavrittihi means no returning. So that's the final sutra of the Vedanta Sutra, that there is no returning, and this is authorized by the scripture itself, by Shabda. Shabda Brahman is the authority for that. And what is that authority? So he quotes that one also, because it says, Nasa punar avartate iti shrute. So the Chandogya Upanishad there tells us that he does not return back to this world. So the translation here, the state of mukti is irreversible. As it is said, no one returns from the state of mukti because Shastra says so. And that Shastra text is, he does not return back to this world. So that's also in the Chandogya Upanishad, it's in the 8th Kanda, so the very last Kanda. So it's right at the very end of the Chandogya Upanishad. And now we go on with many, many more quotes. So these are the, if you check Babaji Maharaj's first book, which is not even the leaves fall from Vaikuntha, where this issue has been taken up in great detail. And so Babaji has argued with logic and also with the testimony of the scriptures, and many of those texts are being quoted here. So I don't know if we can make as much necessity for explanation, because most of these verses say pretty much the same thing. So Tatoktam Hiranyakashipu Padruta Devaih. So in the 7th canto, the gods are complaining about Hiranyakashipu's behavior and how he's disturbing their peaceful enjoyment in the heavenly planets. So he says, this is a very nice verse, that actually reminds me. It says, Tasyai namostu kashthayai yatratma haririshvaraha yadgatva na nivartante shantak sanyasino mala. So here he says, Tasyai namostu kashtaya. So he's offering his obeisances to the kashtha. So kashtha is means either direction or limit, right? So here this would be, I think that the usual translation here is direction, though I think some of the commentaries also find a way to use the idea of limit here. But it's, he says, where yatra atma harir ishvaraha, where the atma, where the Supreme Self, Lord Hari, who is God, so atma harir ishvaraha. All these words are thrown together there they're all what you call samanadikaranya, as we saw in yesterday's reading. So I bow down to that direction in which Lord Hari, the Supreme Self, and God, creator of the universe, resides. So yad gatva, so one who goes in that direction, nanivartante, they do not return. Shantaha sanyasino mala, who are those people who don't return? The ones who are peaceful, the ones who are renunciants, who renounce all things, who renounce everything except for God, the akinchanas, and the amala, those who are pure, free of all the macula. This was also spoken by the gods who are harassed, who are being harassed by Hiranyakashipu. Our obeisance to the direction where the supreme regulator Hari resides. On reaching that abode, The pure-hearted renunciates who have peaceful minds do not return back to this world. So the word avartate, nivartate is also being used, though nivartate often has a slightly different meaning. Next evidence, next proof is the Kapila Deva. So this verse is also quoted in the Bhagavad-Sandarbha, as are many of the verses that are quoted here. Here, the full verse has 4 lines, but Kapila Deva only, but here Jiva Goswami only quotes the first 2 lines. The second 2 lines are also quite significant, and so we'll just first we'll start with the 2 lines that Jiva Goswami quotes. Nakarhichit matparaha shanta rupe nangshanti no me nimisho ledhi hetihi. These are these good verses that have a kind of a archaic sound to them. Right? So here, nakarhichit, never. Never under any conditions. Matparaha, those who are devoted to me. Shanta rupe, so he's talking to Devahuti. So this is a feminine vocative. Shanta rupa, that the one who has a form of peace. So the Devahuti was a peaceful devotee of the Lord. Nangshyanti, that's the future tense of nash, to destroy, so they are never destroyed. So my devotees are never destroyed. And no me nimisho ledhi hetihi. So animisha means actually a blink. But the word animisha, the unblinking, is a word for time. And hetihi means a weapon. And ledhi means to lick. So usually the translation is given here for ledhi, instead of saying lick, they say swallow. So my devotees, they are never destroyed, and they are never touched by the weapon of time, by my weapon of time. They are not swallowed by the weapon of time. And who are they? Yesham aham priya atma sutascha sakha guru suhriro daivamishtam. This is a very important verse for Raganuga Bhakti here. It's in the 3rd canto, coming quite early in the text of the Bhagavatam. But this is where Bhakti is taken to be relational. So the idea that matpara, the ones who are devotees of Krishna, for them, Krishna is the Priya, is the beloved. He is the Atma. So Atma is the self, but here in this case it means dear. When you say that he is my very self, then in that case it refers to dearness, to being beloved. So one who is for those for whom I am the dearly beloved, for those for whom I am a son, sutascha, sakha, for whom I'm a friend, guruhu, for whom I am the guide, or parent even, or a spiritual master, or suhrida, for those for whom I am a friend, and daivamishtam, for whom I am the God, I am the worshipable God. So the translation we have here: O peaceful mother, my devotees are never destroyed. My weapon in the form of time never devours them. And here is the full verse. In that abode of unalterable peace, well, that's, I don't know where that is in the verse. But anyway, here he says, in that abode of unalterable peace are found only those who know themselves and feel themselves to belong to me entirely. And this is the translation that got away from me. There's a lot more here than is in the Sanskrit, but I'm not sure whether this translation was the final one that was used. I think it's the one that was used in Bhagavad-Sandarbha. So this first sentence, mat paraha, we've expanded that and said, in that abode of unalterable peace. It refers back to the previous verse because the verse 37 and 38 are taken together as being one. So I'm assuming that the reference to that transcendental abode comes in verse 37. So in that abode of unalterable peace are found only those who know themselves and feel themselves to belong to me entirely. Matpara. They will never meet with destruction. My unblinking wheel. So animesha hetihi. So what we call my weapon in the form of time. Says that my unblinking wheel never devours those for whom I am the total beloved, their very self, a son, friend, preceptor, relative, benefactor, and worshipable Lord. So, my unblinking wheel. There's a literal translation. Well, I like to do that because I think that if we have the literal translation, my idea with translation is that if the commentary needs to, if the commentator feels the need to explain something, that means that the prima facie reading is not clear, that there's a mystery. Now it's true that sometimes commentators they refer to they sometimes say something that's really quite straightforward and doesn't really need any explanation. And sometimes they don't explain the things that do need explanation. But the general rule is that if something needs explanation, it's because it's not clear. So something like animisha hetihi, the hetihi, the wheel, the chakra, the weapon in the terms of hetihi usually is referring to the chakra as a weapon. So the weapon of time, animisha, is explained as being time. So for those for whom I am the total beloved and the very self and so on, for them, for those who have become bound to Krishna or bound to God in an intimate relationship of this kind, where they experience love in a particular flavor for God, these people are liberated already. And so after they leave this world, they join Krishna in his world, they join Narayan in his world. And from that world, they never return. So that's the subject that we're discussing here. They never return. That's the idea, this animisha ledhi hetihi, that the wheel of time does not touch them. And now he goes to the Bhagavad-Gita. He's got 3 quotations from the Bhagavad-Gita, and these are probably familiar. Brahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarajanma na vidyate. Well, here we have again punaravartino. So this is how the Bhagavad-Gita, why the Gita is called Gita-Upanishad, and why the Gita is, why Krishna says that Vedaischa sarvairahameva vedya Vedanta krit veda videva chaham. Vedanta is mentioned twice in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad-Gita. So here he says, Brahma bhuvanat. So up to the world of Lord Brahma, everyone who is in this material world comes back again. But mam upaitya tu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. But one who comes to me, one who attains me, never returns again to this material world. O Arjuna, all regions of the universe, up to and including that of Brahma, are places from which the residents must return again. Upon attaining me, however, O son of Kunti, there is no rebirth. Yadgatva nanivartante tadadhama paramam mama. My supreme abode is that place which having once attained, from which one never returns. Tat prasadat parang shantim stanam prapsyasi shashwatam. Iti cha Sri Gita Upanishadas cha drishya. So there he goes, right? I was just saying that, but I hadn't thought of it. Perhaps I was remembering it. But here Jiva Goswami refers to the Gita as Gita Upanishad, precisely because the Gita here is following very clearly in this, even to the point of the language. Punaravartino Arjuna, Punarjanma na vidyate, nanivartante, stanam prapsyasi shashwatam. All these phrases carry that same meaning, that one never returns. Once one has attained the supreme abode, one is in a state of liberation that it carries on for all eternity. And now, so there you see the sequence: Upanishads, Vedanta, Bhagavad-Gita, and now Bhagavatam. That was the sequence of the quotations. First it was Vedanta, then it was 2 quotes from the Bhagavatam, then 3 quotes from the Bhagavad-Gita, and now turning to other Puranas. So this is a hierarchy of Brahmana. There's a mistake here. It says Padma Purana Srishti Kande, but the Srishti Kanda is the first Kanda of the Padma Purana. Padma Purana has 7 sections, right? Srishti Kanda, Bhumi Kanda, so I get them all. Patala Kanda, Uttara Kanda. Anyway, there's 7 Kandas, and Srishti Kanda is the first, but actually these verses are found in the Bhumi Kanda. So I don't know what the cause of that mistake is, but we will, since we found the verses in the Bhumi Kanda, we will oppose Jiva Goswami, who says it's in the Srishti Kanda. And it's also the context in the Srishti Kanda. There are 2 verses which are similar, so a part of it is similar, but the context is totally different. These verses are spoken to a king, whose name was Subahu, who is inquiring about Swarga. He wants to go to Swarga. And the sages who are speaking to him are telling him that Swarga is not such a great place. So, Abrahma sadanadeva doshach santi mahipate, O king, there are many flaws in all the regions and all those residences up to and including the region of Lord Brahma. And just like we had a Brahma Bhuvanat Lokat, Punaravartino Arjuna, that Brahma Bhuvanat, so here he's got Brahma Sadanat, same meaning. So Ataeva Hine Chanti Swarga Prapti Manishina. So the wise people, therefore, they never ask for Swarga as a goal. Brahma Sadanat Urdhvam Tad Vishnoh Paramam Padam Shubhram Sanatanam Jyoti Param Brahmeti Tad Viduh. So beyond all these material regions, including Brahma Loka, we come to the abode of Vishnu, Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. So this Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam, this is actually very ancient. Rig Veda first appears in the Rig Veda. But in this particular section of the Padma Purana, it's used with great frequency to hammer away at this connection between the Rig Veda and the Vaishnava Siddhanta. Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. Of course, Vishnu is equated with the sun god, and so the Paramam Padam means the sky. That's the usual interpretation. But of course, the Vaishnavas have gone beyond that. So the supreme abode of Vishnu, lies beyond this material universe, and it is pure, it is eternal, it is full of light, and it is known to the wise as Param Brahma. So natatra murha gachanti purusha vishayatmakaha dambha lobha bhaya droha krodha mohair abhidruta. So the fools, they never get there because they're absorbed in sense gratification, and they're always being tormented by hypocrisy and greed and fear and enmity and anger and bewilderment. Nirmama, nirahankara, nirdvandva sanyatendriya, dhyana yoga, rataschaiva, tatra ganchanti sadhava. So those who have no possessions, those who are free of ego, those who are free of duality, those who are controlled the senses, such saintly persons who are totally absorbed in meditation, they are the ones who go to this Vishnu Paramam Padam. O King, up to the abode of Lord Brahma, problems abound. Therefore the thoughtful sages do not wish to attain heaven. Beyond the abode of Brahma lies the supreme abode of Vishnu, which is pure, eternal, and effulgent. It is known as the Supreme Brahman. The foolish who are absorbed in sense pleasures, being overpowered by hypocrisy, greed, fear, maliciousness, anger, and delusion, cannot reach it. The saints who are free of the possessive mentality, devoid of false pride and duality, having control of the senses, and who engage in meditation, reach that abode. And in response, the king Subahu, he says, Jnana yogena devesham yajishye kamala priyam bhava pralaya nirmuktam vishnu lokam vrajamyaham. So by practicing meditation, I will worship the Supreme God, who is the beloved of Lakshmi. I will go to the world of Lord Vishnu, where there is no birth and no destruction. Through meditation, I shall worship the Supreme Bhagavan, husband of the goddess of fortune, and go to Vishnu Loka, which is free from creation and annihilation. And another quote. So this one here is from the Bhagavatam again. Salokyadinam avichutatvam darshayishyate cha. So it will be shown that salokya and these other varieties of mukti, that they are infallible, or that they are, what was the word we had here again? It was said, oh, look at this, it's still saying, I can't believe it. I had what was the word? Irreversible. It was irreversible. The state of liberation is irreversible. And here he's saying, avichutatvam, you can't fall down. Chuta means to fall down. So vichuta, you can't fall down from any of these states, salokya, sarshti, samipya, and so on. And that is stated by Lord Narayan to Durvasa. Matsevaya pratitam te salokyadi chatushtayam nechanti sevaya purna kutonyat kala viplutam. So those who have attained salokya and the other 4 kinds of mukti, but there are 5 kinds of mukti, but the 5th one is not desired. So, but the first, if those who have attained these four kinds of liberations through service, matsevaya pratitante salokyadi chatushtayam nechanti. So these four are not desired because the devotees are fulfilled simply by the service itself. So what to speak of desiring anything else, where time, kala viplutam, where anything that is affected by time. So obviously if it's affected by time, then one can, it can undergo change. But the world of Vishnu is unchanging. So being satisfied with the service unto me, they do not desire the four types of liberation beginning with salokya, which are available to them because of their devotion. Then where is the possibility of their desiring anything? That will only perish with time. It's amazing how, after having gone through this, I don't know how many times, and still when I read it out loud, then I find that there are things that need changing. So, ityadishu tad itaratraiva kala viplutattvangikarat. So in this particular verse, the idea was that because it says kala vipluta, kutonyat kala viplutam, that what to speak of, kutonyat, what to speak of these other awards which are affected by time. So anything else, swarga, material pleasures, etc., all those things are temporary. So if a devotee does not want even liberation, even the four kinds of liberation, so he doesn't even bother to mention sayujya, those things that are attainable by devotion, by service to Krishna, he does not even want the rewards that are given to one who serves God, because the service itself is the fulfillment. This is the nature of bhakti, that it is the service itself that is fulfilling. Liberation means to serve Krishna, even in difficult circumstances, even even within the material world, even within the world where there's birth, old age, disease, and death. A devotee is quite satisfied if he can render service. That's why the devotees always, this is something that we're seeing again and again, that if there is service, if there is bhakti, I will take birth in hell. And if I have to, here I am in Vrindavan, but if I am not Krishna conscious, if I'm not engaged in service, then what is the use of my being in Vrindavan? If God should so ordain that I become forgetful of Him while residing in Vrindavan, well, better that I be forgetful of God in Vrindavan than forgetful of Him somewhere else. But nevertheless, what kind of cruel joke is that being played on me by Krishna, that he brings me to Vrindavan, but does not give me love for him or service to him. So better I should be somewhere within the world, even in the most degraded and ungodly part of the world. And of course, that's a great many choices in the world today of places where one can go and one can find that God, religion, bhakti, they've all taken on a distorted and warped form. And so that those places are a kind of hell. But I would even go to such a hell if I could have some service there. Now, this is why devotees who preach, they find that even in hell, if they can preach the holy name, and if they can bring God consciousness to those who have been deprived of this ultimate source of bliss, that they feel that this reward is greater than anything, even liberation itself, even samipya, even salokya. The idea that I am giving pleasure to Krishna, that is the most important thing. So clearly, yesterday we were saying that the devotee, he desires to have direct perception of Krishna. That's why we've been talking about, Bhagavad Sakshatkar as being the definition of mukti. But that Bhagavad Sakshatkar, and even though the external Sakshatkar is superior to the Antak Sakshatkar, if a devotee has Antak Sakshatkar, if he has seva, and if he knows that he's pleasing Krishna, then even in hell, he feels as though he is being fulfilled. Tasmat. So the idea here in this verse was that because it said he doesn't take the 4 kinds of liberation, what to speak of those things that are under the influence of time, those things that are swallowed up by time, those things that are immersed or destroyed by the influence of time. This indicates that the 4 kinds of liberation are not destroyed by time. That was the point that was being made. Tasmat kvachit avritti sravanam. So now here's the question. Tasmat kvachit avritti sravanam tu prapanchantar gata tadadhamatwapekshaya kadachitka tatlila kautukapekshaya cha mantavyam. So if there's a case where we actually do hear about someone leaving the spiritual world to come into the material world, and then we should understand that it is for the sake of Krishna's amusements, for his diversions and for his leelas. In the above verse, only boons other than salokya, etc. are described as being perishable over the course of time. Therefore, where sometimes it is described that someone returns to the material world, that return is from Bhagavan's abode as manifest in the material creation and took place for the pleasure of Bhagavan in his pastimes on earth. So, commentary by Satyanarayana Dasa Babaji. Salokya, residence in the same abode as Bhagavan, is the common factor of all the types of mukti. Thus, as Sri Jiva Goswami explains that Salokya is eternal. Once one attains it, there is no return from there. Sounds like I was watching one of these, I think it was, anyway, one of the neo-atheists. And he was talking about eternity and the idea of eternal life as being something that is actually frightening, something that doesn't excite him, that for most people death would be a welcome end to a life of suffering, or even if it's not a life of suffering, still one becomes fatigued, one becomes bored with life. So one can only imagine, people often say that in eternity, would not one become bored? That seeing the same, going through the same things, the same forms, and so on. This is why all the scriptures try to just say that Tadeva Ramyam Ruchiram Navam Navam. There's always the idea of always being new, of always being fresh. Just like even in this world, there are always new things that come up. This material world, despite the fact that everything is really just the same things being repeated. Punah punas charvita charvananam. One only has to look at the products of the entertainment industry. The poor people who are writing for films and so on, they have to reproduce the same, somehow or another. They have to excite their audience in such a way, but they have the materials to which they have access are limited. Stories of, but love is something that manages to remain ever fresh. Heroism is something that manages to remain ever fresh in the world of literature and in the world of entertainment and drama. So if those things can manage to some, but of course they try to remain ever fresh and ever new. But for discerning sahridaya, for a person who is who observes the world, he can see that there's this great strain to produce something that is new and something that doesn't become turgid and become simply an empty shell of drama. So here he says that so there's no need to be afraid of eternity. One in eternity, one is always has the fresh and innocent vision of a child, and God is infinite in his capacity to reveal new dimensions of his own being and his own capacity to love. Therefore, the devotee who has, even in the life of a sadhaka, has come to experience these qualities of the Supreme Person. He has no fear of eternity because he knows, he recognizes this characteristic of eternal newness. It's the characteristic of the mind. The material mind is such that it always is looking for something new. Even something that's very interesting and something that one has given oneself to, a wife, a husband, someone to whom one is committed in love. Still one finds oneself, when the mind is diverted. One can be attracted to another woman or to another man. One can always feel that the grass is greener on the other side of the hill. This is the nature of the material mind. But when the mind has been completely spiritualized through Krishna consciousness, through bhakti, then his only object of perception is the infinite Supreme Lord, who is fully capable of surprising you at every turn. And another thing, of course, is that real love gives one the capacity to be to marvel without end. Parents marvel, of course. Sometimes in this world it doesn't always turn out that well, but generally speaking, parents, when they see the flowering of their own children and their achievements and their achievement of success and so on, then that for them is an inexhaustible source of pleasure. So that love reveals the newness, or reveals it's a combination of God's infinite qualities and the power of love to reveal those qualities that makes infinity and eternity um, a source of enticement, an enticement for the individual who has come to see this world, dukkhalayam ashashvatam, as a place full of misery and a place of